Please pray with me. May these words that I speak be grounded in my soul, encouraged by the God presence in me. And may these words that you hear be captured by your soul, enlivened by the God presence in you. Amen. The human journey, as part of the journey of the universe, from its very modest beginnings through to the complexity of the 21st century, is a journey that is rooted and grounded in spirit. Our biblical story, when we move beyond literalism, gives us a sense of the power of the Spirit, this God presence in all of life, to survive whatever the journey becomes. I have come to see that this Spirit within every living thing, human and other than human, is indestructible and somehow eternal, more than all of the physical containers. Oh, certainly the Spirit can be very large at times and very diminished at other times, but it is not possible in any circumstance to destroy it completely. I'm wondering how many of you heard the current this week with Amanda Lindhout and her mom, Lorinda. How many heard that? A few of you. Amanda Lindhout and her mother, Lorinda Stewart, appeared on CBC's The Current. And they, for me, are a modern-day story of the reality of the indestructible Spirit. Amanda is a freelance journalist who was kidnapped in Somalia in 2008 by teenage militants and held for a $1 million ransom. She was in captivity for 15 months, treated poorly initially, and when after 10 months the ransom still had not been paid, the kidnappers became increasingly more violent, causing physical torture and sexual assault. The most heart-wrenching and difficult phone call between Amanda and her mother, Lorinda, happened a few days after that torture had begun. And they played that phone call clip on The Current. Amanda pleads, "Mommy, mommy, 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 please pay the money now or they will keep torturing me every day until it is paid." Amanda was desperate. Lorinda was filled with despair. It was a very difficult conversation to listen to. It would be easy for us to say that their spirits were broken, that they were bereft of hope and life. But the interview that follows shows that this is nowhere near the truth. Their spirits may have been diminished, but they were not broken. Canada's policy is not to pay ransoms, believing, and rightly I think, that to do that would make Canadians abroad even more likely to be kidnapped. It is also illegal in Canada for families to raise ransom money. The further reality in this case is that Amanda's family did not have the capacity to raise $1 million. Her father was on permanent disability, and her mother was at the time working in a bakery for minimum wage. There is every reason to expect that their spirits would be crushed. Yet somehow, Lorinda was able, with help from private sources, to raise $600,000. And it caused their own personal financial ruin. The kidnappers agreed to that amount, and Amanda was freed. Now, 7 years later, Amanda and Lorinda are in a very different place, and the strength of their spirits is evidenced in their pain-filled but remarkable story. Their spirits, having come through the most horrific experience, proved indestructible and are in fact stronger, by their own admission, than they were before 2008. I have said many times in this gathering that we often don't have a choice about the circumstances we find ourselves in. But we always have a choice about how we will live through whatever befalls us. It is clear in this story that Amanda and Lorinda chose to live through this and beyond this time from a place of love rather than fear and anger. This is not to say they were not afraid, for how could they not be? But their love for each other and their love of life itself was greater than all of their fears. They recognize now that their relationship is stronger, deeper, and more loving than it was before all of this happened. They recognize the importance gratitude plays every day of their lives. And they recognize the power of forgiveness to change their lives. Amanda said in this interview that she needed to forgive herself for going to Somalia in the first place, aware of the danger that she might face. And she needed to forgive herself for the help she demanded of her family that was beyond their ability to provide. Lorinda needed to forgive herself for the guilt she felt about not being able to help her daughter sooner. And she had to forgive the Canadian government for not helping as well as she expected. And the real root, the hardest one to imagine, is that both Amanda and Lorinda recognized the need to forgive the kidnappers, the perpetrators, as impossible as that may seem, because they recognized that it was only through forgiveness, which is an ongoing process, that the spirit in each of them could recover and flourish. This is the remarkable power of the indestructible spirit. The story of Paul and Silas is very like Amanda's story when we look at the circumstances rather than focus on a God that intervenes with an earthquake. Like Amanda, these men experience sexual assault, being stripped in the public square. They are physically tortured and imprisoned against their will. And how do they respond? They respond with singing and prayer. Mommy, 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 mommy. Their spirits most certainly would have been diminished, but not broken. They are stronger after the ordeal, which is witnessed by the jailer, who is so moved. He is so moved that he finds within him his own spirit, a spirit which had been buried beneath the burden of his position. Once again, the Spirit, the God presence in life, is indestructible. This is also true for the boy in the children's story this morning. His home, his town, his entire life as he knew it is in ruins, both literally and figuratively. It is a circumstance of seeming hopeless desolation. He could choose to be fearful, angry, despairing, but the presence of just a little sprig of green lifts his spirit. He tends the sapling with love, which brings joy to himself and eventually to others. When the soldiers rip out the vines, the boy thought his heart would break. Mommy, 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 mommy. But eventually, tiny sprigs of green appear once again, tended with love once again by the boy and now by the girl, showing us that love exists on both sides of a barbed wire fence. In each life, the Spirit, the God presence, is challenged by circumstance. In each life, we witness the indestructible nature of the human spirit, the Spirit of God. Could that spirit have been crushed and destroyed? Yes, possibly. But only if Amanda or Lorinda or Paul or Silas or the boy or the girl chose to do it themselves. Choosing fear, anger, hatred, refusing to forgive could have crushed or even diminished their spirits to a microscopic ember. But choosing love, the heart of God, in the face of fear, is the way of the Spirit. It is love that allows us to be thankful. It is love that allows us to forgive. It is love that allows us to find hope, always. It is choosing the path of love in all of life that gives witness, pure witness, to the infinite power of our indestructible spirits.